If you're tired of your students constantly coming up to you and asking, what should I do now when they finish an assignment, this video is for you. So stick around, I'm going to be sharing some of my favorite early finisher activities. I'm Tara from Teach Without Tears. I help teachers reduce stress both in the classroom and at home. And on Wednesdays, I'm starting a series of videos like this one all about differentiation, because differentiation can definitely relieve your stress in the classroom. I remember my first year of teaching, I had not planned for any differentiation for my students, and trying to meet the needs of 24 different fifth graders all at the same time was not working for me. I had my low students who were staring at me because they didn't understand anything. And then I had my high flyers who were finishing everything in a few minutes and asking me that question, what should I do now? And I was constantly trying to come up with different things for them to do. And then I realized that I needed to plan that ahead. And once I planned my early finisher activities ahead of time, it made everything so much easier. So let's go back a bit to when I was in school, because that's the first time that I experienced early finisher activities. I was one of those kids, the one who finished the activity first and then went up to the teacher and asked, what should I do now? So I should have really been prepared when I had my first classroom and known that that was going to come. But my first memories of having these early finisher activities go back to first and second and third grade. And I just remember being really bored. My teachers told me things to do, like go back to your seat and read a book, or one of my teachers even had us copying words out of the dictionary. Now granted, we were learning dictionary skills, but just copying the words and their definitions was not really benefiting me in any way. And again, I was really bored when I finished my work early. So that brings me to fourth grade, and my fourth grade teacher had early finisher activities nailed. She knew exactly what she was doing, because for the first time in my school career, I actually looked forward to doing the activities that I had when my work was finished. Now, she was also very good about making sure that we hadn't rushed through our work just to get to the early finisher activities, so that's another piece of it as well. At the beginning of the year, make sure you're very clear about how the quality of the work needs to be before your students are able to move on to the early finisher activities. But once our work was checked, once we were sure that our work was done well enough, then she would send us to the early finisher activities. And here's how she did it. She had a bulletin board in the back of the room. And on that bulletin board, there were lots of different activities. They were for all the different subjects that we were learning, and we could pick what we wanted to do. So sometimes there was a reading assignment that we would read a book and write a book report about it. Maybe there was a math activity, and we were supposed to apply the multiplication skills that we were learning and show how to do it, and maybe write an explanation of how to solve the problem. All of them were different, but all of them allowed us to practice the skills that we were actually working on in class. So not only was I not bored, but I was also working on things that were going to further my learning and make sure that I understood all the things that we were learning about. So once I got my fifth grade classroom that very first year, I thought back to fourth grade and thought, wouldn't it be great if I could do something similar, set up this board with all these different activities? She changed it out every single month, and we got prizes if we got a lot of the activities done. So based on the number of activities we did, we got prizes. So I tried to set this up in my fifth grade class and realized that my fourth grade teacher really was a super teacher, because it took me forever to set this bulletin board up, and doing it monthly was just not practical. So I decided that I was going to change this into a different format, but still give my students the same choices so that they would still be able to practice the skills that we were learning and be able to apply them and not be bored, because they'd also have that choice. So this is where the differentiation comes in, because not only are you meeting the needs of those students who are finishing their work early, but you're also addressing their interests and their strengths. They're able to choose which activity they want to do. So instead of the bulletin board, I decided I was going to turn this idea into a choice board. So a monthly choice board is the way that I decided to do it. You could also do this by subject area. If you have a lot of students who finish their math work early before the rest of the class, you could absolutely make a math choice board so that if you're working on multiplication, your choice board has all different activities the students can do to continue practicing their multiplication facts, to show that they even understand it deeper than what you're doing with the rest of the class. I like the monthly ones though, because that way it's for any subject, anything that they finish early at any time. They just go get their early finisher activities folder, pull out their choice board, and choose an activity to do. And there are 24 different activities for this, so very rarely did a student completely finish the board before the end of the month. And if they did black it out, I made sure that they got a prize and praise because they went above and beyond and definitely used their time wisely when they finished their work early. Just like I mentioned before, I always checked their work that they needed to get done first to make sure that the quality was there before they were allowed to go and get the folder for their early finisher activities. And in order to get credit for the early finisher activities, I also needed to see them putting effort into those, because there are also those students who get this, think, ooh, I just want to color in this whole board, and try to write one sentence for the writing activities or one math problem for the math activities, and that just doesn't fly. So they had to learn from the beginning of the year that we need to actually put effort in, try on these. But again, there are lots of different activities that they can choose from. So if students really liked math, they could pick to write 4 subtraction word problems and then have a friend solve them. Or if they were a really good writer and they liked creative writing, September 19th is International Talk Like a Pirate Day. Write a story from the point of view of a pirate. So they're all very creative things that the students really get into. They want to see how many they can complete. I always challenged them to try and get a bingo, and then if they could go farther than that and had more time, then they could try to do more of the activities. And then at the end of the month, they got to pick a prize. If they got a bingo, it was a smaller prize. If they did black out the whole board, then it was a slightly larger prize. And that was just motivation that made them want to keep doing it month after month. And then each month the activities changed as well, which also kept them engaged and interested in continuing to do those activities. I also know that a lot of teachers like to have their students read if they finish work early, and that's another great option. The only problem I ran into with that is that after a while, some of my students who weren't terribly interested in reading, oftentimes some of my struggling readers, would just get so frustrated if I told them to take out a book if they finished something early, and they would just kind of sit there with their head down and didn't really want to read a book at that time. So again, I tried to think about, how can I make this more engaging? How can I make this something that they actually really want to do? Because we know the more the students read, the better readers they're going to become, and I really wanted them to spend some time during the day doing some independent reading. So I decided to try some reading challenges, and this inspired my students to want to read. So even if I didn't tell them to take a book out when they finished something early, they were pulling books out on their own so that they could make progress towards their reading challenge for the month. So let me tell you about the September challenge, but these also changed every single month throughout the year to keep the students interested and engaged and to make them want to continue working toward their goals. So September, in my classroom, we use a reading workshop model. And in September, we're spending a lot of time working on making sure that students have stamina, making sure that they're able to read independently for an extended period of time. So the September reading challenge is all about stamina. It's a butterfly that the students get at the beginning of the month, and on that butterfly are the different numbers of minutes that we're going to read for. So on the first day, I set the timer for 5 minutes, and we see if the students can sit and read independently for 5 minutes without getting up, without talking, just making sure that they are focusing on their book for that time. and then I watch carefully and see which students are able to do it. And at the end of that time, they're able to color in their 5 minutes. Now for this challenge, it's kind of specific to whole class because we want to get up to the 25 minutes of independent reading time. So for September, it's kind of specific to building up that reading time. But then all the rest of the months of challenges are either about the number of books the students read or about the number of genres they read, just to kind of get them to branch out. I always had some students who got stuck in one genre, that they loved realistic fiction and they were only reading realistic fiction books. So in March we did a special challenge that was, can you read the rainbow? And each color of the rainbow stood for a different type of book. So one color was realistic fiction, one color was fantasy, one color was nonfiction, and they tried to read all the different genres throughout the month of March. So each month has a different theme and kind of challenges the students in different ways. But these are also differentiated, and you can help your students set goals for themselves. So if it's a specific number of books they have to read for the month, you can help your students set those goals so that they're reasonable. Some of your struggling students may only be able to read 3 books in the month, while some of your high flyers might be able to read more like 7 or 8 books. So when they're choosing goals for themselves, then you can kind of chime in and encourage them to either raise or lower the numbers based on what you know about your students, or they can try to challenge themselves to read more. So with the challenges, they do them throughout the month. Anytime that they have free time, they can take out their book and read. And then there's usually a little log or a little, not just reading log, because those are boring too. I tried those and they were really boring too and did not really motivate the students. Some months they do have to write down the book that they read. Like with this one, if they're reading for a period of time, I did have them write down their book title and how long they read for, just so they could see it matched with the butterfly. But some other months there are just little reflection pages that they fill out. Who was your favorite character in the book and why? Just little questions to make sure that they actually read the book and make sure that they're able to reflect on their reading before they get credit for it. And then at the end of the month, any students who met their goal, we usually had a little classroom party for those students during lunch, and they got to come and eat their lunch with me, and usually I had some kind of little activity for them to do, and they absolutely loved it. Most months, most of my class completed the reading challenges and they wanted to have lunch with me. And when parents came in for parent-teacher conferences, I cannot tell you how many parents commented on seeing their kids reading more at home. Some of them told me their child never picked up a book before at home. And because of these reading challenges, they were coming home, they were reading before bed, they were reading when they got home from school, and they absolutely loved that these reading challenges motivated their children and made them read more, both in the classroom and at home. If you would like either of these early finisher activities, I did link them down below the video. You can grab them through those links, and I would love to hear what your favorite early finisher activities are as well. So let me know in the comments, and come back next Wednesday. I will be sharing some more tips for differentiation. Make sure you're following along, and I will see you next Wednesday.